Hello, hello. I hope you're here. Finally getting started. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty there at the beginning, but we're going to get started. And I'm really excited about this spontaneous live stream. It's really exciting being able to go live, at the blink of an eye, just like that. Brought to you by this amazing technology called the internet. Good to see you here. If people are coming by, I don't have my co-pilot. I don't have Carolyn here with me tonight, so I almost feel blinded. What's up, Juan? I'm going to try to get some people in here real quick. This was a spontaneous live stream. Trying to get some people, in the room. Basically, just to talk about the events, that took place, that's taking place right now, with Michael Cohen's testimony. This is not typically, a political channel. It's not something that I do a lot as far as getting into politics, because our channel is really about living life to its fullest and all that good stuff. Bear with me for just one moment. So yeah, it's about living life and living life to the fullest. But here's the thing, a lot of times what people end up doing is they end up watching the news and getting just caught up with the nonsense that's on the news. And when that happens, they end up making terrible decisions because they get inundated with bad press all the time and they make bad decisions, or they let everything get them down as far as what the news says, or they get caught up in the drama. And anytime you're obsessed with drama, you're going to become negative. There was a time in my life where I was obsessed with all the drama going on all around me all the time, and it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay to do that. And so what we want to do is just get it out, talk about it, let everybody kind of express themselves if they want to, and basically, hey Ashton, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Manfred, I apologize. Schleckenrich, I guess. Cohen is I don't know POS. I don't know exactly what that means, but here's the thing. What we want to talk about in this is essentially is just to get it out there and just say, what is the news doing to you watching this stuff on television with Cohen and the rest of the bunch, or the summit there with North Korea that President Trump, the little peace talks, the little negotiation that they're having over there, a little treaty action that didn't happen. And how does that affect our psyche when we're watching it? How does that affect us emotionally? Do we let it affect us emotionally? And I'm convinced, I'm convinced a lot of people do. Michael Ghostin says, it's not nice. What's not nice, Mike? What's not nice? You got to be more specific, my man. But yeah, we want to talk about that and get some people a chance to kind of weigh in, get it off their chest. And it would be better. We want to set a tone and atmosphere for the chat tonight if it does get going, is that to let people talk, to let people get their frustration out. I don't care if this is monetized or not. This is more therapeutic for people who just need to get their opinions out. They need to get that stuff and get that frustration out. But to be encouraged while you're in here to say, hey, you know what? None of this is as big of a deal as you think it is. I know that during the last administration, I said the same thing. Oh, okay. I didn't know that it's a nice phrase. I didn't know that, Mike. I apologize. I know that during the last administration, I got caught up in a lot of stupid drama when it comes to just silly stuff when it comes to the news. I got caught up with the birther movement and a lot of political conspiracy. I mean, I'm not talking about little green men on the moon. I mean, because we know that's true. I'm just kidding. But, hey, what's up, American Rebel? But the thing is just to have a discussion about this and say, is what's going on in Washington right now, is it a big deal? Is it a big deal? Or is it something that's being blown up? And how bad is it that it's being blown up? And how normal is it? And this is what I submit to you guys and how we'll start off. I submit to you that not only is it normal, but that really during the 90s and 80s, and when I say 90s, I just mean the first few years, was the exception to the rule. That most of the time in American politics and history, it's always been just full of drama, full of theater, full of spectacle, that it's normal. Ashton says, thanks for thinking of us, Bill. Well, and like I said, it's one of those things where I was talking to some people earlier on the phone throughout the day who I can tell these things were bothering them, whether it would be that they were for the president and just think everything that Cohen is saying is just hogwash, or the opposite, people that are very mad at President Trump or don't like President Trump or whatever. And I guess what I want to say to everybody is the same thing, which is, you know what? It's really just a bunch of drama, and it's not real. And what I mean by not real, yes, it's really happening. No, this isn't some kind of quantum holographic chaos theory or anything like that. But it's a matter of when you're watching this, what is it feeding? What inside of you is it feeding? And is it as important as we think? When we were kids, when most of us in here were kids, when most of us were kids, you did not have a 24-hour news cycle. You watched 30 minutes of news at night, and maybe your old man, or maybe even your mom, I don't want to be sexist about it, maybe your mom would read a newspaper, and you did a homework assignment where you had to take a headline from a magazine or a newspaper or publication, and that's how you caught up with the news. But we live now, in the past 30 years, we've lived in this time period of 24-hour news, starting with CNN and then moving to Fox and now everybody. And of course, alternate media now as well. And I'm telling you, it's creating a bunch of drama people. And I have a saying all the time, I save the drama for the stage, because a lot of it is just feeding into just a continual cycle of just garbage, of just drama and theatrics that's just garbage and doesn't really have any type of meaning. What Cohen is testifying about in the long run is not going to hurt or help Trump. It's definitely not going to help him, but it's not really going to hurt him. So if you're a Democrat in here, it's probably not good to buy into the Kool-Aid when it comes to Cohen for your own causes, for what you believe in your platform. It's not a good idea for your party. Matter of fact, that's why Nancy Pelosi's not jumping just yet on anything that Cohen's saying. But the main thing is how much news is taking place that's not being covered. Juan Thomas is like President Trump or not, I'll take him over Hillary any day. A lot of people feel that way. That's why Trump got elected, in my opinion. It wasn't so much that everybody loved Trump, it's they didn't like Hillary. American Rebel, of course, said, what's up? And Kim is trying to see what he can get away with. I don't worry about it. I trust in God and God in my life. That's how I feel about it. I'm not worried about Kim Jong at all, really, period. In fact, I think Trump maneuvered well in that. Cohen is a liar and always will be. Here's the thing with that, America. Here's the weird part about that. You got this guy who's worked for Trump, what is it? I forget, 10 years or something. And obviously he was a big fan of Trump and loved his job. And now all of a sudden he's grown a conscience. And I think that's the part of the narrative that I don't like. It would be one thing if he was mild, if he was confessing some things and sort of reserved about it. But what frightens me in this whole thing is his personal theatrics, the way he carries himself in front of the camera. He really plays into the Trump bashing, which is odd. Most of the time when people are confessing, there's a solemnness about it, a seriousness, an embarrassment. I don't see any kind of embarrassment in this guy at all, or where he's been maybe ashamed of what he's been involved with. I think he's grandstanding. He's trying to raise the possible sales of a future book. No little green man, just green cheese. Yes, Mars is the place to buy your green cheese, Michael. Your green cheese can be always found in Mars. Strong's Adventures. Hey, y'all. What's up? Juan Thomas, welcome back, everyone. Yes, Juan, welcome, everyone. What they are doing to Trump is downright criminal. That Congress and the Senate would be difficult to do your job. It is, but here's the thing, Manfred. It's one of those things where Republicans did it to Bill Clinton back in the 90s, and yes, Bill Clinton made some horrible moral decisions, but most people say that the Starr investigation in the 90s was pretty sick. I mean, I definitely voted Republican in the 90s, definitely vote Republican now, but I think what they did to Bill was stupid, was downright stupid. It's not so much that I don't disagree with you. It's the fact that they all do it. It's a part of the theatrics. It's a part of the theater. But that's eye-roll worthy. And my concern, I guess, for people is that we walk around. Again, our channel is all about living life to the fullest, about getting out your front door, living life, go out, do, engage into your life. And, of course, for me, I'm a Christian, so I believe that begins with a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, that begins with knowing that God is our Father and that we're reconciled to Him through Jesus Christ. And if you don't believe that, all you have to do, like right now, if you're like, I don't know if I believe that or not, I don't know. So all you have to do right now is say a little prayer. You say, Dear Lord Jesus, forgive me of my sins, wash me clean, and be Lord of my life. And begin with that prayer. Go to Facebook, drop me an inbox, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about reconciling that part of your life of understanding there is a higher power, and His name is God, and we serve Him through Jesus Christ, His Son. And I'm thankful for that because that's how living life begins. That's how it starts, is by knowing that our life is meant to be eternal. It's meant to be forever. And so when we know that, that gives us sometimes the strength and the courage to get out of our front door, to get out and to engage into nature and all the beautiful things that are around us. Is when we look around and we say, you know what? There's more to life than just sitting around watching this drama unfold on television all the time. So let's go back to the comments here. American Rebel thumbs up. And Juan says, someone has paid Cohen a lot of money, I think. Well, they've definitely paid for his attorneys. You know, that's come out in this, is that somebody has to be paid. You know, attorneys typically don't work pro bono in a case like this. That's the first thing I always do, Strong Adventures. You know, I miss Carolyn being with us on this because I'm going to get lost in the comments. I'll get lost and forget somebody or something. So y'all just have to be patient with me tonight. Carolyn went down to ETSU to get Crystal. So they'll probably walk in the door here in the next 30 minutes. I don't know if you guys know this area, but there's this restaurant in the southern part of the state called Fats, F-A-T-Z. Yes, people like me probably should never eat there just because of the name alone, but they've got really good food. And so they stopped at the Dublin Fats, and Carolyn and Crystal grabbed me and Dad and us some burgers, and they're coming back with it on their way back from ETSU. So I'm looking forward to them coming home. But hold on to your faith and remember, man, we're just strangers in a strange land. If you're a Christian, if you're a child of God, you know that we are strangers here. We don't really belong here. We stick out like a sore thumb. We're always going to be opposite of what the mainstream say, whether it's the mainstream news or whether it's alternate news. Be careful about all the right news you watch. Let's say that you watch alternate news and you watch, hey, y'all, Backyard Life says, hey, y'all. You can tell that there's a lot of Southern people here. I wonder why. Wonder why. But be careful about the alternate news that you watch, because just because it says it's right news, right-wing news, or alternate news does not necessarily mean you're getting factual news. There's a lot, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting news that lines up with Christian values. It may not. Some of that stuff's hateful and mean and racist and ugly. So be careful what you're watching. Always fact check. I was talking to Dad, and Dad kind of spent about 10 years, I would say from 2003 to about 2013, just kind of not watching television at all. I mean, he watched movies, but he didn't watch mainstream news at all. He just kind of fell off the radar, and just in the past couple of years started keeping up with the news again. And listening to him talk about it is hysterical, because he looked at me today. I cut his hair today. You know, I always cut Dad's hair because I've been bald since I was 16, but Dad's just now bald up here. He's always had hair. So it's really funny. I just give him a hard time and everything. He wanted me to shave his head. I was like, okay. So I shaved his head and took down to the razor. We had a lot of fun. But I was talking to Dad, and he was just talking about how that he has these news alerts set on his phone. And if you go from CNN to Fox to MSNBC to the different news outlets that are out there, they all have a different narrative right now about what's going on in these hearings. And it's hysterical. They all have something different to say. They all have a different spin to put on it, as well as with what's going on in North Korea. But meanwhile, and while the talks broke down in North Korea, and while Michael Cohen is up there acting like the kid from Goonies, and you know the chubby kid from Goonies. Anybody remember the chubby kid from Goonies when he starts spilling his guts? It's hysterical. It's one of the best parts in the movie. But while Michael Cohen's doing that, India and Pakistan are at each other's throat. And folks, that's a big deal. And it's barely, if you go to Drudge, I don't know if some of you guys watch Drudge or not, just their front page. There's only a couple entries on Drudge about that conflict. They have nuclear weapons, and they are shooting at each other. They've shot down jets, and they're exchanging fire. Now, it's cooled down a little bit in the past 12 hours, but that can escalate again. Folks, they have nuclear bombs. That is news. What's going on in Congress right now is not news. It's drama. It's silly. And I would say that about a lot of things that the Republicans put Barack Obama through as well. Some of it is just theater for the next election cycle. Cortez, the new younger person, that's kind of front page news right now, making waves with her green proposal and all this kind of stuff. I enjoy watching her energy. I will say that she's got a lot of energy. I think her plans are, I don't know, silly because they're I think even the party itself, the Democratic Party, is a little leery of her. But she actually yesterday asked the exact same questions that had already been asked. And why? Why would she do that? Well, I knew why. I looked at Carol and I said, the only reason why she's answering these questions is for the sound bites, because she's front page news right now, and she wanted it on record stating or asking the questions to Michael. Even though it had already been asked, it was already in public record, she needed that sound bite. Sure enough, I opened up YouTube, and I love YouTube, man. This isn't a bash YouTube session. I don't do that anymore. I'm just thankful to be on the platform. It's a great platform. And you know, they're doing a great job at being open now and transparent, and they're so very friendly. When you have an issue and you have to email them, very friendly. So I have nothing against YouTube, but sure enough, on the front page there's Cortez on several different thumbnails asking her questions, and no one in any of the forums or any of the comments were talking about the fact that these things had already been asked before. In other words, she really wasted people's time, and of course she's young, and that's okay. She needs her sound bites, I guess. But that's what I'm talking about drama. Going back to the comments here, you can't depend on a single source of news. No, I read dozens of different articles on the same subject just to find out half the truth. I love the way you worded that too, that you read dozens of sources to get a half truth. Because just because, you know, back when you were young, back when we were all younger, because this is an older, old fogey channel here, back when we were all younger, you could go on to if you could put news together based on a variety of sources, you could get a sense of what's going on. And now that's not necessarily the case at all. Ashton says, I'm not trying to bash liberals, but the saddens me just how blind they become for the best interest of our country. They seem more concerned for the welfare of illegal aliens than U.S. citizens. Well, there's another, y'all have to forgive me for drinking my orange Coke Zero, not sponsored, but I'm willing. Anyway, it's orange. Carolyn thought it'd be a good change of pace, and you know what? I'm loving it. I thought it'd be gross, but I actually love it. It's really good. But if Coca-Cola wants to sponsor this, they're more than welcome. Here's the thing, Ashton. The funny thing about that is this: when it comes to immigration in general, right now, it's an easy debate. It sets them apart. The loudest voices right now are anti-wall, pro-immigration. Those are the loudest voices. Regardless, if you are in this chat room and you're for immigration, against it, doesn't matter. But the loudest voices are for immigration. Of course they're going to pick that side. I have other issues. I think abortion being one in particular that fires me up, especially here in the state of Virginia, where I am just sickened right now over that issue, over what's taking place in Virginia. I'm very sick over it. It's disgusting. The immigration doesn't bother me personally as bad, but I am compassionate for other people who that tends to be their trigger point as far as their, you know, what triggers them is when it comes to immigration. My wife is you know, you guys have heard me say it before. She's to the right of Reagan. You know, I mean, she is. Carolyn was going to vote for Trump 4 months before I was going to vote for Trump. You know, and so Carolyn, that's her battle cry is for. She believes in a path to legal immigration. Do it the right way. Start out your life in America the right way. American Rebel says, "Oh, to be young again. Wow. If you want to roll the floor, wet your pants. Just listen to AOC. Yeah. I miss Freckleface. Occasional Cortez. I missed that one. And Ashton, again, I don't think that you were, you know, bashing liberals at all. I think some of these issues are, honestly, I think some of these issues are a little more complex than we give them credit for. I mean, immigration being one of them. Right now, there isn't an emergency. Now, I want you to think about the way it's framed again. And I'll keep my immigration opinions to myself because, honestly, I don't know if I have a dog in the fight. I think people in Arizona and Texas have a bigger say than I do in California. But even that being said, when it comes, well, let me get to this comment right here. This is one time killing babies so sad. They're God's gift to us. Yes, they are. There is a Well, here's another comment. It says, my mother-in-law spent 12 years to immigrate legal. My goodness. And see, to me, like that would make Carolyn cry. Carolyn loves those stories too. She loves the Neil Diamond. Do you remember the Neil Diamond song? They're coming to America. You remember that? I love that song, man. And I used to have the little tape, Neil Diamond tape. I forget, it was like Greatest Hits or whatever, and that was on there. Is that from A Star Is Born? I can't remember which. I think it had that one, and It's a Beautiful Morn. It had that song on there. But anyway, yes, I listen to Neil Diamond, sue me. But the song Coming to America, this idea of people pursuing their hopes and their dreams and their desires, it's such a beautiful song. And it's what we are as Americans. It's wonderful. I don't think people realize, going back to what I was going to say earlier, that just a couple of months ago, there was a caravan, or a month ago, there was a caravan heading up here from Central, all the way down Central and South America, coming up through Mexico. There was a caravan, which is what got the discussion talk, which is what got Trump talking about the using emergency funds to build the wall. That's complicated. That's some crazy stuff. When you think about that, that's nuts. So they say, oh, there's not a problem right now. Immigration's on its way down. If the president of the United States, just to give you a scenario here, and again, I'm fully aware that this video is likely to be monetized because of the content. It's all good. Just kind of watch what we say in the comments, not to hurt other people's feelings. You guys are always good at that, though, so I'm not worried about it. But I want you to think about this. What if somebody did come over here illegally, and they weren't even from any of the countries in Central or South America, but they did have an ill intent? And let's say they come across the border with a dirty bomb or some chemical weapons or something like that, and they set the bomb off in a major American city. The president is responsible for the welfare of the lives and the welfare of Americans. That would be on his hands. And if there's anything impeachable, that would be criminal of the president not to secure our borders. I mean, if there's anything that says this is the job of the president, that would be a part of it, is to make sure that our borders are secure. So it's hard for me to be too sympathetic towards the liberal viewpoint. I do try to listen, though. I try to hear their side. There are things about global warming that I'm more open to now than I was, let's say, 10 years ago. Because I tried to find a place where I can meet liberal-minded people, liberal, educated-minded. If you can't fix stupid, so I'm not going to try to talk to somebody who isn't willing to listen to my point of view or a different point of view. If we're both at the table listening to each other, I'm good. But I'm not going to try to approach somebody liberal who's not willing to listen. But if I was willing to come halfway and say, you know what, I don't agree necessarily with everything that they say about climate change, but I do like clean air and water. So I can compromise there and say, you know what, my hate for pollution, because I can't stand pollution. I hate it. I hate bad air. I hate bad water. I think that that's a big issue. If we could find common ground there, as far as their belief in climate change, global warming, and all this other stuff, I can find some common ground with them on that level. And hopefully they respect that. I find, though, that with most of the liberals that I talk to, they're not usually satisfied when I say that. They still refer to me as a climate denier or climate change denier. And it's unfortunate, because I'm not denying that we don't need to have clean air and clean water. And most of the legislation that they want to push in that direction, I would be okay with under the auspice of I like clean air and clean water. I try to find a way to where there's a compromise there. Juan says, I do remember that song. It's a great song, man. My Backyard Life says, I don't have feelings. I'm a robot. And this whole time, I thought you were a person. My Backyard Life. Shanty 11, Canada. If you're still in here, Shanty, you're going to have to talk. You're going to have to tell you what you're talking about there. That's funny. Backyard Life says, I agree the president's number one priority is the defense of the citizens, and I have to go. Hey, I'll see you, American Rebel. Thank you for coming by, too. I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Be sure to click that like button and subscribe and stuff. Anyway, good to see you. Mark! HRC and DNC coerced Republican Cummings and Cohen to perform this regrettable and repulsive dog and pony show. That's what I've been trying to say, is that it's really just theater. It's all it is. It's a dog and pony show. I was totally disgusted and know it was a way to stir up those who believe in liberal propaganda. It really is. I guess the point that I was trying to make earlier, though, Mark, is that Republicans are as guilty. And at some point, we got to stop. Whether it's Republicans or Democrats, do I think it's going to? No. I think it's going to get worse. I was talking about being a Christian earlier and how, as a Christian, we're strangers in a strange land, man. We're always going to stick out. We're always going to be different because we're different. That's we believe different than the mainstream world, not the mainstream media, but just most of the world. We're a little different, and so I get that. But in my dream, in my idea of perfect society, we stop with the dog and pony shows, and that means Republicans have to as well when there's a Republican in the White House or a Democrat in the White House. Shani says, "What I mean is that terrorists could also use Canada. Yeah, they could. They could. They could. They could. I have no. There's no comeback to that. They could. The only comeback that I have to that is that for some reason we don't feel as threatened by Canadian immigration. You know, immigrants coming from that part of the world as we do Central and South America. This is where people usually insert racist notions. They'll say, well, that's because they're a different color. I don't think it's that at all. I think if you average the crime out, the crime rates that happen between illegal immigrants from south of our border, from north, there's no comparison. So that seems to be where the issue is. But again, my personal opinion on it, again, I differ from my wife on this. My wife is pretty much build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. I have a completely different opinion. My opinion is maybe we need to step into some of these governments. I have an odd view that I don't hear anybody talking about is why is it so bad in Mexico? That is my question. If you'll remember, guys, in the 1990s, the Republicans were sold on the fact that we were going to move a bunch of low-paying jobs down to Central and South America, and it was going to stabilize the region, and we wouldn't have to worry about immigration. I remember this like it was yesterday, Newt Gingrich and the rest of them. We weren't going to, immigration wasn't going to be a problem because it was going to stabilize all these jobs we were losing here in America, was going to stabilize the economies in Mexico, Central, and South America. How'd that work for us? It didn't. So I think the spotlight really needs to be on those governments. I think that would help immigration more than anything if we could do something there. Now, what would we do there? I think that's probably beyond the scope of this YouTube channel. I think I better keep my opinions to myself on that. You feel free to talk amongst yourself. People need to go through the proper channels and become Americans legally. If they aren't, then it seems obvious they're doing something illegal. In some cases, Ashton, in some cases, I think in some cases it's ignorance, and they're just looking for opportunity. In a lot of cases, it's not. You know, I'm trying to be open-minded here, Ashton. I'm trying. I'm trying to be open-minded. I do have some friends, some people that I love. They've had the hardest time with them. They're trying to do it the right way. They've been in country for, golly, 15 years in one case, 17 or 18 in another. And the process for them to become citizens, they work here. They have beautiful families. They've adjusted extremely well. But the process for them to be here has been extremely difficult. Juan Thomas says, we need term limits. Cut the House down to no more than 2 from each state. We would have so much money, tax dollars. Ashton says, yet the liberals want to defend them nevertheless. I'm confused. You're not confused. You're not confused. It's exactly what it seems. You see, when statistically for the past 50 years, people that migrate here, immigrants are typically vote vote blue the first couple of generations. And then when they start making money and start losing a lot of it because of taxing, getting taxed, they turn red. Does that make sense? That's what the stats kind of suggest. Those first 2 generations, though, you can change entire regions from red to blue if you get a lot of immigrants who can suddenly vote and have easier paths to citizenship. So the idea is that you're getting more voters. This isn't about protecting immigrants at all from the Democrats or from the liberals. That's not what this is about. This is about voters. That's the part I wish people would just be honest about. It would really, I guess it would be just so much. I would have a lot more confidence in the person I'm speaking to when it comes to immigration if they just fess up and say, look, they're easier to get to vote Democrat. There are Republicans that are mamby-pamby, should just join the liberal progressive party. But I'm encouraged by congresswomen such as Jim Jordan and Cruz, etc. Jim Jordan's interesting. It's a different. I'm waiting to see because Juan said Jim Jordan 2024. I'm trying to see whether or not he's going to last that long as far as the momentum. Will he last that long? I'm curious there as to whether or not he can. You know what I'm saying with the press and the news eye is on you all the time. They're always watching you. I'm worried about my home state now, Virginia, as far as the Democrats kind of swept under the carpet this horrible thing that the governor did years ago. In full disclosure, I've done much worse. In full disclosure, I probably would have remembered that when I was running for governor, just to get it out. If you can open up another browser, I don't want to get too deep into it, but was it something he did that was very racist? And the way the Democratic Party has swept it under the rug is concerning. It's like the hypocrisy there. But again, I look at our own party, I look at the Republican Party, and just shake my head and go, "Yeah, but we're just as guilty sometimes." Mark says, "You know full well it can't be two per state. First of all, the United States Constitution. Secondly, you must know the regions of states vary." Juan says, "I think he will ask. He might, but you know how these guys are. They shoot up these shooting stars, and you think they're going to explode, and they're going to be wonderful, and they fizzle." I will say this: in 2004, I was with one of my best friends, Ian Himba. We were having. He was actually my roommate. I was going back to college, and he rented a room out from me in my house in Athens. And he's a merchant marine, so he'd come in, I don't know, every 6 months and stay a couple months. And we threw a Republican party at our house for George Bush. Like, we ordered the campaign stuff in the mail, and we had the Bush signs in the yard. Really, we did it to be funny. And so we had one person show up. It was hysterical because we contacted the Bush campaign people and everything, but nobody showed up to our house. It was hysterical. Anyway, I doubt very seriously that year. I looked at. I was watching the news. I was watching the Democratic, the DNC, and I watched a young senator by the name of Barack Obama give a stirring speech. And I looked at Ian, and I said, "That's the next president of the United States." And I knew right then. I said, "He's the guy everybody's gonna want." And sure enough, it definitely happened. Oh, to have had a YouTube channel back then. Of course, there was no YouTube back then, but still. Matt Backyard Live says, "There's an old saying, if you aren't a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. And if you aren't a conservative when you're older, you have no brain." I've never heard that. Shanty 11, "If you really want to hear from a liberal perspective and not insinuate what I believe, I'll definitely tell you my point of view. You don't have to agree. But it has nothing to do with getting them," and then it ended. I hope you don't think that I was insinuating what you believed. I apologize if you I didn't mean for you to think that. It has nothing to do with getting them to vote and a lot more to do with the wall being a waste of money. I don't think that the wall's necessarily a waste of money at all. But I do think it has more to do with getting them to vote. That's all been admitted in closed circles. That's all been admitted. That's pretty much factual. You have to realize something, that the idea that Democrats or liberals are less racist is not true at all. That has been verified from my life for the past year, when I left the deep South thinking that, oh well, I won't have to deal with people who are racist any longer, and I run into more racists the farther north I go than south. That's a fact. Racism plays into both parties, and so a lot of times, like I said earlier, a lot of times race does play into this. It does, and both parties are guilty of that. So the idea that the wall, it's called a show of force, and military guys here would agree with me on that. Um, my military guys would definitely know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's not that the wall is effective as a wall; it's just that you've got a wall. It's easier to debate if you actually know where we are coming from. Well, again, Shanty, I'm not trying to debate you, man. We're just talking. So, dude, I'll concede the point to you. It's no big deal. It's I'm not really here to debate. It's really here just to talk. Just say what you want to say. It's no big deal, man. I'm not trying to win the argument by any stretch of the imagination. Again, that's how I started how I started this live stream tonight, is by really just saying this is a great moment to get opinions out, to kind of vent what's taken place over the past couple of days here with Michael Cohen pulling the kid from Goonies, where he's confessing and getting it all out. I guess the main thing is just that people that I've talked to today and yesterday who are Trump supporters, who are very, very, very angry, and people who hate Trump, who are waiting to determine whether they can be happy about this. That's odd to me as well. They're waiting for the clearance from the party to whether or not this is really damaging to Trump. And I think there's a fear as well that this isn't damaging at all. Like from Democrat friends of mine, liberal friends of mine, there's this fear that this hasn't damaged Trump at all. I don't think it has. I think if anything is damaging Trump, it's not the constant onslaught. To be honest with you, I'm kind of shocked that he's been able to withstand the boxing match that he's been able to withstand. So obviously, people are getting involved here in the comments. Shani Levin. So how do you feel about third trimester abortion? I can weigh in on that. That's something that I think it's awful. It's horrendous. I don't even understand why it's a thing. But but I tell you what, at least you guys are getting out. You're expressing yourself. I will say this, man. Don't let this bog you down. Don't let this when you're watching this stuff on the news, when you're watching this stuff unfold. Don't let it bog you down. Don't let it get you down and keep you down. Um, I would say this. Sometimes it's best, like Carolyn and I do about 3 times a week. We don't turn on any type of media other than like my computer, not internet, but like to work on videos and stuff. I'll do that. But I don't even watch the news anymore. I got obsessed when I was working for a corporation there in Chattanooga. I got obsessed with the news. I watched it. Man, I had it going all the time. I had an opportunity to work from home, and I had a TV hanging up at my house, where in my office at my house, where I could literally eavesdrop and read the ticker at the bottom, while I was doing my job. I mean, it was just an obsession, and it doesn't do. Part of the reason why I started this channel was really the depression that takes place when you're that plugged into the world. It's just ridiculous. Talk about being plugged into the matrix, man. It's just silly. It's just to get it out. That's Freckle. I'll just be honest with you. That's what I believe. Life begins at conception. I don't really apologize for that. And as far as my voting, and that's exactly where I stand. I vote that way. That's everybody has the hill they'll die on, and that one's mine. I remember when I was younger, people really helped. People really helped me not be intimidated about that one either. I believe in standing up for people who can't stand for themselves, and even when it comes to immigration, that's why I'm not so quick to be so anti-immigrant. I want to make sure that we have a clear path to citizenship. I want to make sure that there is a way for people to migrate to this country and to set them up for success, because I believe I believe in the little guy, the little girl, the little gal, you know, the little person. I apologize. I'm working on the whole little person thing, or person versus he or she. Karen Welch says, Trump 2020, I think he'll get it. I'm going to tell you, I think Trump's going to win the next election too, but it's not because Trump's that great. It's that the Democrats just, man, wow. John Apple says, I'm ready to see how the next election goes. The last one was wild and had crazy stuff coming out on the news. Man, the last election was nuts. Shane says, Freckleface, you are free to feel the way you want to feel about abortion. I also spark conservative views on education, although I'm not a fan of Davos. Yeah, the last election was fun. I mean, come on, you just be honest. It was fun. The last election was a hoot. But I think what was bothering me is, and I had a video about this, nobody watched it. It was one of those, I think I had 40 views on it or something, but it was like the new fake news and putting that video out. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, where I started identifying stuff where I realized what I was watching was not being. One of them was RT. I still watch RT sometimes, but I think it's good now that we know that it's out in the open, that that's not a regular news network and things like that. Absolutely. How we treat the preborn and the elderly defines us. It is what separates us. I agree, Freckleface. It's what separates us from what I would call the heathen. From when I call heathen, I'm talking about just animals, Mark says, I've been waiting to have hope for my country ever since Bill Clinton got in office, even more so during Barry's administration. I think a lot of people, and I'm not defending Barack Obama. If I was going to write a history book, over a particular time period, it would be about the Obama administration. And the reason why is not because of how good or bad Obama did. It's because Obama got blamed. You had the Tea Party that started up right after the Bush administration, and the Tea Party was hijacked by the Koch brothers. That's pretty factual. That's a fact. And so you have a lot of things that happened during the Obama administration that was, especially in those early years, that yes, he botched healthcare being one of them. He had all this momentum. He had all these things that he could have accomplished those first few years, and he tackled healthcare without any type of healthcare reform. That was weird. That was very dumb in my opinion. And they didn't put anything long lasting in there to really solidify healthcare in this country that that's the way we're going to move forward. So instead, it's going to cripple along. And I don't know about anybody else, but if your healthcare went up, it's not like after they defunded it in DC that now your healthcare has gone back down. So I feel like we really got messed over in that whole thing. But I think a lot of the things that Barack Obama did during the first few years of his administration had to do with the Bush administration, whether you liked George Bush or not. Backyard Life says, I don't like Trump's personality, but I've never seen the media so determined to completely destroy someone's life like they have with his. No, I haven't either. I haven't either. The next election, Juan Thomas says, will be like the last election. So many running. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm not willing to weigh in on that one yet. I have to see. I'm not convinced Trump will run again. Ashton says, it's sad to say, and I pray nothing like 9/11 ever happens again, but it seems to take national tragedies to bring our country together. Here's something that I want to suggest. Just throwing this out there. Did 9/11 bring us together, or did it give us a few years of patriotic country songs and to tear us apart? Seems like we're more divided now after 9/11 than we ever were before 9/11. Just throwing it out there. And again, I'm a veteran. And I'm glad I served my country after September 11th, served until 2003. Very proud of my service, had honorable service. And I watched the patriotism flare in this country. And by 2004, it was pretty much over. And my youngest child has walked in speaking in unknown tongues, I think. She's cold. She's cold over there. But as we finish, hey, baby girl.
Hi, Daddy.
How are you, Punky? This is my youngest daughter. She's home from college. So with that in mind, hi, baby.
Hi.
So with that in mind, I've got to take care of what's really important. I love you guys. Shani, come by and talk to us some more. We love it. Love you having in here. All of you guys, Karen Welch, I didn't get to your comment. I just want to read that. The Democrats still can't get a person that's decent. Wouldn't vote for them because I'm a Republican. You know, I vote for the best person, but still. But I'm glad you guys joined us. And thank you so much. And again, like I said, Shani, come back by our videos. We'd love to have you. And you guys have a great evening.